What's up, friends? Another edition of the Unfiltered podcast here. I want to try to kind of go a little left field here a little bit on this show. Just kind of want to give some of my takeaways from last night's GOP debate. I did not watch the whole thing in full, but I have watched a lot of the footage. And what I do to keep a more balanced, nuanced commentary is I watch, commentary from both sides, not just on the liberal side, but also on the conservative side, but from sources I respect. And you can get an idea, a sense of what's what so far, for the first primary debate on the Republican side. Obviously, we won't get Democratic one because Joe Biden is the assumed nominee for re-election for next year. Obviously, Donald Trump did not show up for this debate. He instead decided to go on Tucker Carlson's tape show on X or Twitter, or whatever the hell you guys call it these days. But it was intriguing, though. Like, my opinion was that, number one, Donald Trump should debate. As a democracy, I believe in, regardless if you were president before, if you're leading in the polls as big as he is, you should debate and should defend your ideas to the American people. I don't like the idea of him not debating. The same thing with Joe Biden. If he's being primaried by other challengers in his party, he should be able to defend that. But again, I'm not a member of any of these parties, so I don't have a say in the battle. I'm just saying, as a American citizen who believes in democracy, and the ideas and whatnot, I think you should be able to you should debate, especially when there's a legitimate challenge. That said, I will say the good thing about Trump not being there is, Trump being there will obviously take the oxygen out of the room. We know that Donald Trump is a very, very vivacious individual. Very, he is. I've been saying for a couple of years now, he is the single most important politician of my lifetime. Not necessarily a good thing either. Just to say that he's the importance of Donald Trump and now political arena for the last 8 years, is truly baffling in the way and how it's influenced the media and how we cover politics, how politics changed. I would argue the realignment we're going through right now as a country is largely because of Donald Trump's influence on it. So what you want. But last debate, I was curious because it was being pushed as, okay, who's second place? Who's the next guy? Who's the other contender? So polling wise, has been Ron DeSantis since pretty much since the midterms last year, and he's been in the tank for the last few months now. I think he's done, but I do think there are still things that can happen that could possibly, get him to recover his campaign and possibly get back in not saying good graces, but to a point where he could be a possible front runner down the road. If Donald Trump gets charged and convicted for any of these crimes he's alleged to have committed, if he passes away, if anything of that nature can happen, that can, or Ron DeSantis, debates well, has a good campaign, maybe he polls better as he gets into the caucus season in next year. After last night, I'm convinced he's done. And here's why. There was really no focus on DeSantis at all. Like, if you take away Trump, DeSantis is technically the front runner. Okay, take away Trump. Trump obviously is the leader, but take away Trump, DeSantis is the next thing, the next leader, next guy leading the polls in this race. And yet, if you looked at last night's debate, you wouldn't think so. You wouldn't. None of these guys actually attacked him or actually confronted him. And to me, that's a bad thing because it shows that they don't fear DeSantis. I think what it is, I think they realize that DeSantis now, since being on the stage now of running for president and deciding to put himself on a national level, not very likable, very awkward. His policy ideas, while close to Trump, a lot of positions he's taken recently, between the anti-woke stuff, which people are getting sick and tired of hearing, even Republicans. I had on a Republican on my podcast last week, Ernst podcast, and he even agrees with that, and he's the DeSantis supporter. And he, you have that, and then the abortion, the federal abortion ban, we're from 15 weeks to 6 weeks. I mean, that's very unpopular nationally, even Republicans too. So you look at all those things, combined with the personal awkwardness and whatnot, as this guy is almost in my car, Okay, good. I don't see a sense of recovery. And I was saying, okay, maybe this debate could change things. But the fact that the other 7 candidates didn't even attack him or even like push him tells me they don't respect him. Tells me they don't seem a threat anymore. Most of that energy went towards Vivek Ramaswamy last night. And he's the guy right now currently surging the polls. In fact, I suspect that when we see newer polling post-debate, I expect Ramaswamy to be the clear-cut number 2 in the race at this point. And here's another thing, too, also. He's in the Trump lane. He is closer to Donald Trump on virtually everything in terms of policy, in terms of everything else. So really, the real winner last night is Donald Trump. Well, we say Ramaswamy's the winner last night, in my opinion, based on, the debate itself. Because he owns the Trump lane, Donald Trump, by nature, by proxy, rather, won last night. So, Vivek Ramaswamy, I mean, look, he came up very sharp. He's very young, very fresh. He feels very fresh. We talk about the GOP being very old and crotchety and ornery. And here's a guy, Indian, as a minority, who's a clear conservative, and he sounds very well spoken. People will call him the right wing Obama. I would say he's more close to Buttigieg, but that's my opinion. Pete Buttigieg, rather. But I think he won because, again, the energy being spent on Ramaswamy last night. I mean, hell, freaking Chris Christie called him, some guy sounds like the ChatGPT. Yeah, he's probably right, but at the same time, the electorate's changing. Again, realignment. And Ramaswamy, a lot of folks feel the way he feels. Now, policy-wise, I don't agree on a lot. I don't agree with anything with him, almost anything with him, on anything. But it is interesting. Another winner last night. I thought Nikki Haley had some good moments. I think the sparring between her and Ramaswamy on foreign policy and him really, really going to town on that, taking him to task on that, because obviously foreign policy is her thing. She's former UN ambassador, part of UN for a long time, and all this stuff. She has a lot of experience in that. Obviously, it's a little bit of a neocon, but at the same time, she knows what she's talking about. I thought she, for someone who entered a race and didn't really make much of a splash after that, I thought she made some noise last night. So I put her as a winner as well too. She at least, put her campaign in a way where, okay, she still exists. Okay, cool. Chris Christie had moments as well too. I thought Chris Christie is the only anti-Trump guy. He's the one that he calls it out. He's been continuing calling out the fact that he won't support Donald Trump if he's a nominee, and he's called out to hypocrisy. So there's a lane for that. There's a thirst for that. Whether or not that will translate into a polling bump, I don't know. Maybe a small one. But I think we acknowledge that Donald Trump owns 30% of that party. Maybe more. And, the optics show that Trump won last night still because of Ramaswamy. Those are my winners. Losers, obviously, Doug Burgum and Ada Hutchinson, they didn't do much last night. They're polling under 1%, so that's not really saying much. Tim Scott hadn't, I'm sure Tim Scott's a nice guy, but he didn't make a splash at all last night, So I don't see him. I see him being one of the early exits of this primary. Who else on the stage? Mike Pence. He had the most talking time, and surely he's a very good debater, and surely he's a very good speaker. But he is too far to the right. I mean, even mainstream Republicans don't like him. It does shock me that he's actually polling as high as he is. Was it 4%? I think I saw last I checked, and I think it's only because of the fact that he's a former vice president by name value. That's all it is for me, I think, at this. But he's lost the Trump support, of course, due to the January 6th stuff and what happened there. He's not going to get the mainstream Republicans because of the fact that he's too far to the right on issues like abortion and whatnot. So, no, he's screwed. He's screwed in that way. And I think DeSantis is probably the biggest loser of last night, because it's not that he didn't do well last night. I thought he did okay. But he needed moments. He needed big moments. He needed to be the center of attention. He needed to be treated as the second frontrunner behind Trump, the frontrunner not named Trump. And again, the fact that these other candidates put all the energy into Vivek Ramaswamy they acknowledge that he's the surging guy, and DeSantis is the one that's falling in the polls. And I'm sorry, DeSantis screwed himself. Whether he should wait his turn or not, that's up for others to decide. But he's screwed. Again, he's awkward. All the Florida stuff with him, fine. I live in Florida, I get it. But his unpopular policy ideas, the anti-woke thing over and over again, it's tiring people now. What do you believe in? And he won't attack Trump on anything. He has no balls. He won't attack Trump on anything. He'll sit there and say about Fauci this, he should fire Fauci, but not name Donald Trump. Just saying. So that's my takeaways from what I saw last night, or this morning rather. I got all the clips this morning. I thought it was a very good debate for the most part. I thought in terms of, when I say they're good, in terms of like entertainment, in terms of just seeing what these people are. None of these guys I really would vote for anyway, but I was just curious where all this lies, because this is the first real piece of this season now. Now we got into the first place of debates, caucus, primaries. It officially launched last night. I don't know what the next one is, but I'm sure we'll be tuned into that. The only reason, and honestly, the only reason I didn't watch the debate last night is because I recorded a podcast last night. Did my NFL preview podcast, on Respect Podcast. Check it out, of course, if you're into that. But that's just my thoughts on the GOP debate. I'm Ernest Christian. Until the next Unfiltered, we will talk soon. Later.